Hello. Well, good morning. Good morning. How's everybody this morning? Beautiful day, right? All right. We'll welcome you to West Kentucky Community and Technical College for our third IT Connect conference. We're going to kick it off here. Glad to see everybody here. We got a lot of engaging folks to present today from every aspect of IT or technology. I think it's going to be a great, exciting, full day, and you're in for a real treat. I'd like to get started right off the bat this morning and welcome the president of West Kentucky Community and Technical College, Dr. Anton Reese, and I believe this is his third year of being here as well. And anyway, please welcome a lot better looking and younger individual than me, certainly, but yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, John. No. Don't force it. Don't force it. I know how it is. It's still early in the morning. John said, "Are you guys excited?" All right, so here's what we're going to do. So if you aren't too mean this morning, could you all stand? Yeah, just stand and shake it off a little bit, because we have to engage and connect today. Yeah. And if you aren't too mean, turn and look at the person next to you real quickly and say, "Neighbor, you look really good because you're standing next to me." Neighbor, there are 4 types of students in this world. Those who watch things happen, those who let things happen, those who ask what happened, and those that make things happen. High five 3 people and tell them, let's connect and make things happen. High five 3 people. Let's connect and make things happen. Have a seat. So as you take your seats, I do bring welcome on behalf of the WKCTC family, on behalf of the 8,500 students who make their way through our doors on an annual basis. West Kentucky Community Technical College is proud to host this third iteration. Certainly IT falls under that overarching call in terms of high wage, high demand jobs. So you're in the right place, the right time to get the right information. WKCTC, when I say that we are a unique institution, there are over 1,100 community technical colleges across this nation. This college has been ranked, wait for it, not once, because that's a coincidence. Not twice, not 3 times, because things happen in 3s. But we've been ranked in the top 10 nationally on 4 consecutive occasions. That's good stuff. Yes. And so we attribute that to outstanding faculty like John Voss, certainly the rest of the faculty, staff, and team here at WKCTC, and certainly for events like this further underscore what we try to do here on a daily basis. So with that, I will yield the microphone and get back to my Diet Mountain Dew, get the kick without the calories. All right, there you go.
Thank you. So before I get started, a couple of things I want to make sure that, everybody's cell phone, please turn them down to a vibrate or something so we don't have that going off in the middle of a presentation today, if you got your phones with you, that is. I want to thank a lot of people to get this started today. First of all, I want to thank all your bus drivers for getting you here, right? Give them a round of applause, yeah. I especially want to thank all of your teachers for doing the work to get you registered, to get you here, to get you engaged, and get you started on track. So all of your high school teachers, if you would stand up real quick and give us a great round. You betcha. I want to thank all of our faculty and staff here that went through several months worth of planning, organizing, getting everything going here. And we would not be without our illustrious Barbara Sweat, who has organized almost everything. I know she's probably not here in this room right now. She's out there doing all kinds of stuff, but I want to give her a big round right now because she's really done everything we can. And really, I'm so excited about you being here. I've been here for a long time. Actually, that's why I was sort of elected to MC this event I'm the elder statesman, I guess, of the faculty here. 31 years, and when I first started talking about technology, learning technology, this was me. That was my first computer system almost 40 years ago. And you can laugh, yeah. It's, it was a dual floppy 8-inch computer, 64K total. And we used it to run an entire accounting system for a business, right? Because before that, we did everything on paper, ledgers, everything else. So it was a big time saver. But yeah, and when I was your age, I was excited because at your age, my high school just got 15 of those brand new electric typewriters to learn how to type on. Oh my gosh. That's what we had. And programming, oh my gosh. This was my first programming class that I took many, many years ago. PL1 language, right, on a punch card system to run a program. We don't do that anymore, right? Not like that anymore. So obviously today, we've got lots of opportunity. The big names that you're all familiar with, obviously Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and that little, computer that I had many, many years ago has been replaced with 1,000 times more stuff in a profile that's so small, simple, easy to use. So technology continues to advance, and you're in the right time to get involved with technology advancements. Today, the sky's the limit. And I think about what the next 5 years is going to bring in your opportunity and what you're going to be able to do, right? The advent of high speed. Our next primary speaker is that's probably what his office looks like. I'm not sure, but, big cyber defense operations center, which is critical. I may someday trade in my SUV for one of these to get me around, right? That's on the forefront of technology. And you all are going to be here to start that. And I hope that your career can get started today. If you're excited, if you're passionate about what you do, you're going to be successful. So I hope that all of you are excited about what you're doing at high school level, what you might be able to get started doing here. And we have several business and industry participants here that will also talk to you today about how they got started, where they're at, what does it take to get to where they are now. And so making that connection is the whole idea of the theme about this IT Connect conference. So what I'd like to do is introduce our first guest speaker today, Mr. Wes Spencer. He's a nationally renowned security professional, the Chief Information Security Officer at Perch Security. He originally was a instructor at Murray State University in the Telecommunication Systems Management program, and then he got hired on for a lot more money at a local bank for a while. Did quite a bit of security operations for F&B Bank, and then he started a brand new company, Perch Security, and he's a startup investment. And welcome, please, Wes Spencer. He's now living in Tampa, but let's bring him on and we'll get him going.
If you guys just catch a vision, I don't care if you do what I do, I just want you to understand and know there's a place for you here, whoever you are, however you've been built, however you've been wired, there is a place for you, whether that's cybersecurity or something else in the world of IT and technology, really excited. So I am like you, I'm actually from Murray, Kentucky, I went to Cowley County High School. I know some of the teachers that are here, Cheyenne, I don't know where you are, but where we are, you get represented. There he is, yeah, Cheyenne's the man. So here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk to you about a little bit about my experience, a little bit about what Perch is doing to, again, cast that vision to you, to understand some thoughts and ideas that you may have, and also talk about the opportunities that I think exist for you. So we're going to jump into this. So a little bit about me. I do have a very technical background, less and less technical every day, unfortunately, but grew up in Linux. The company I worked for right out of college was like pretty much all Linux with the exception of like the desktops, and that was really attractive to me because I just never seen a company in like 2004 that was doing something like that. I'm like, that's really cool, I want to get involved in that. And then as John said, I batted around a little bit. I actually taught at Murray State for a while, which was a ton of fun. And that's where I learned I have a passion for teaching, which is what I consider doing right now for you guys. And I do this all around the country. I mean, almost every single week I'm in a new city, and I'm talking to clients, and I'm helping them understand more about what we're doing and more about security. It's just a passion of mine, and it's something that I consider to be extremely rewarding. I also work on nation's economy through a lot of different initiatives, and one of those is in cybersecurity. So I don't know if you knew that or not. But they are very involved in helping the private sector, so they receive all of this intelligence about all these different cyber attacks that are coming in every day, and what they do is they try to aggregate all that together and then provide a means that they can share it back out to private industry, like a lot of the folks here, to do something with it. And so I help serve on that board, and I work with them in kind of being one of the voices of the private sector of like, hey, here's what's worked well from our perspective, here's some things we'd love you to think about, all of that. So a little bit about Perch. So why in the world am I doing this Perch thing, right? So let me first explain it this way. So when I was a banker, I was the CIO of the bank. I had, the nice corner office, all that kind of stuff, and I was the very first Perch customer. So just being a technologist, I'm very interested in like new technology and cutting edge stuff, and I knew the CEO pretty well. When I met him, he pulled me aside at a conference and said, hey, I want to talk to you about something we're doing. At the time, he had literally, the company was nothing but him and a PowerPoint deck. I don't know if you guys watch the Shark Tank show or not, but there's a lot of truth to the way that show works. So he did not have investors yet, he just had an idea, and he wanted to share it. And he's like, what do you think? And I'm like, this idea is awesome. I love this. Can I help you with it? Can I help you kind of get it off the ground on the customer side? And I mean, that was like heaven on earth to him. He's like, absolutely, it's what I'm looking for. So that happened, and the company grew. He actually found some investors local in Tampa that were very interested in what he was doing, and they kind of funded it. He was looking for about 10 times the amount of money that he got. So we still laugh about that to this day, that he thought he was going to get all kinds of funds to get this going, and they gave him a tiny, tiny, tiny piece. So he left his job at a really big bank called JP Morgan Chase. His wife thought it was crazy, but he had this idea behind it. And it just something that he couldn't get off of. And so I love the same thing. So for about 6 months, I helped him build the product on the customer side. And then he gave me a call one day. He's like, hey, Wes. He's like, are you interested in coming over at Perch? And I'm like, probably. That sounds like a lot of fun. So I mean, the company was still very small. We probably had, maybe 10 customers at the time, of which I was one. And we had about 3 months of financial runway. And what I mean by that was after about 3 months, we were bankrupt. So that's where we're at, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take the job. That sounds like a really wise decision for me and my family. And so I take the job, and I go home, and I tell my wife, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to do this whole Perch thing. I talked about it a lot with her. And she was like, okay. I went and told my friends, and I didn't get like a warm feeling from her on that. So I went and told my friends, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to take this Perch job. And they're like, what's Perch? And I kind of explained everything. And over and over, people are like, are you crazy? Like, why would you do that? That's like the stupidest thing ever. You've got like this really comfy, cushy bank job that's never going anywhere for a 120-year-old bank. And you're going to leave that? And I did. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. So now we're fast forward 2.5, almost 3 years now. Where's Perch today? So Perch today is about 650 customers. So we're not exactly 3 months from being bankrupt. We're doing really, really well. Won a whole bunch of awards. And I want to talk to you just a little bit about what it's kind of all about. So we're based in Tampa, Florida. I live in Tampa now. Tampa's a great town. You want to get to Tampa? A few of you. Cool. Yeah, so it's a good vacation town, which is nice because all my Murray friends will occasionally be in Tampa for some reason, and we'll get to see them and hang out. So, which is really, really cool. We have about 50 employees now. We're securing about, almost like 1.5 million, somewhere around there, endpoints. So that's really cool. Like our coverage now went from just 100 different IP addresses that we're protecting now to 1.5 million and growing every single day. So the amount of coverage, the amount of threats that we're seeing is really, really cool stuff. We secure from tiny little companies, what I would call a mom and pop, like a little chiropractor's office, all the way up to Fortune 50s that if I said the name, you would know who they are. So really cool for us to see that kind of growth and scale as a company and where we've gone. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Security Operations Center, but one of the things that we do is we have a team of security analysts and threat analysts that are responsible for looking at all the threat activity for all of our customers, even our super large ones. So our SOC is in Houston, Texas, so we kind of have two offices. Well, I guess we have a third now in Denver, but the Tampa office is where I'm at, where our executives are, our marketing team, most of our developers, we're a software company, all are, but then the SOC is in Houston. So what they're doing is we've got a team of analysts, about 15 now, something like that, in a nice big downtown skyrise. We have rent off you've ever heard of WeWork, we have an office space in there. And they're responsible for, as those threats come in, we analyze them, we triage them, we take a look to say, hey, is this thing actionable? What should the customer do about it? And then we work with them to recover from that attack. And we see attacks every single day. We see some very sophisticated ones. We see some that no one's ever seen before that are pretty interesting as part of our threat research. We see very common, what I would call commodity threats all the time. I was just sharing with Wes a minute ago, just one came in for like a SQL injection. I don't know if you guys have heard of SQL, but we saw a successful SQL injection for a customer literally just minutes ago and passed that over to them. This is really exciting, right? Knowing that we're doing good, knowing that we're helping customers do something and stay more secure than they would be without something like Perch, right? So let's talk about, so we're a bird company, right? And we talk about ourselves as being the flock and our customers being in the flock. And there's a big mission behind all of that. We truly believe, as a whole bunch of flockers, that we sort of birds of a feather working together, right? And so a couple things about us from our mission perspective. We truly believe 50% of our company is dedicated to making customers happy. And then the other 50% is responsible for building the product. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's the way we love to think about ourselves. It's a big idea, a big deal for us to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers. Some mission things that we just really believe in when we're hiring people, and I want you guys to know this, egos are one of the most toxic things in the world of technology. If you're somebody that kind of struggles with that, I would definitely encourage you to check that at the door. I can't tell you how many talented people we turn down and talented people we let go at Perch because they have an ego problem. They think they're better than they are, they think they're bigger than the company, they think they're bigger or whatever. We're all here together. So we don't really care about titles at Perch. We don't care about, well, that person is so-and-so in the company. We don't care. If you have a good idea, go and run and do it. Let's work together. We're big pieces of kind of who we are. Some other things that I think are important too, we really try to understand kind of three things. We see ourselves as the trusted partner for our customers. We understand when they bring Perch in, they're saying, hey, we're leveraging and using you guys to help us stay secure. That's really important. You guys see these things that happen on the news, these big cyber attacks where companies get hit. That is really unfortunate stuff. No one ever wants to be involved in that, right? That's terrible. So we truly understand the weight of that when a customer is saying, we're going to choose Perch. That means a lot to us. That trusted advisor role is really critical for us. We are technical innovators, and we're really, really, really big at pushing the envelope through standards and through automation. And what we're doing as a company, we truly believe that we can push the envelope and truly get security to be much more than it currently is. And the last thing, we handle tons and tons and tons and tons of data, and it's so awesome. So John mentioned a minute ago, Amazon, AWS, if you guys are familiar with AWS, coolest technology ever. We were just talking earlier this morning, it literally is 10-year-old technology that we're running, but AWS is what we call infrastructure as a service. The ability for us to automate everything together. So we're still using Linux at the back end, right? We're still using databases, all these different things that everybody uses, but AWS gives us the ability to do all of this at a great, colossal, huge scale. And so we can do things that are really, really interesting. So let's say very late last night, I was talking to some customers in Hong Kong, and also Taiwan, where both of their offices are. And they said, hey, we're getting ready to add some new infrastructure. Can you guys build out everything that you're doing in the U.S. data centers or AWS in Hong Kong and the AWS Asia region? And we told them, yes, we can do that in about 3 days. We can replicate our entire Perch data center infrastructure that we're doing in the U.S. in the Asia area. Normally, in the pre-AWS era, it would have taken probably 2 months of build out in constant stuff. I can't possibly express how powerful it is. So if you're interested in this world of IT, highly encourage you to start getting into AWS. There's a reason so many technology and software companies use AWS to run everything they do. So a couple things about us. We're running about 47 nodes, 1.7 terabytes of running memory. That's RAM, not like hard drive memory. It's like running RAM. We're looking at about 500,000 events per second. So every second, we get 500,000 records that come in from all of our customers, right? Think about that. That's threat data that's coming in. Now, do we have humans that look at 500,000 every snap? It's impossible, right? It's completely impossible. So how do we find threats when we have 500,000 come in every second? Machines, right? Machines do all that work. So I'm sure you guys have heard of like machine learning and the capability for machine automation. That is the lifeblood of us at Perch. So we talk about ourselves as a company as sort of human-led, but machine-driven in what we do. Very much like a car. Think about that for a minute, right? So the machine does all the work. All it does is push the gas pedal, turn the key, right? There's still be a human to kind of drive it, at least until Tesla finally comes out with truly self-automated cars, right? So I love that's the analogy, and that's the only way that it works for us, is having machines do all of the work. All right, so let's talk about threats for a minute, kind of where we're at. Then we're going to quickly go into opportunities, and then I want to also finish on kind of this idea of a rewarding career for you. So I want to paint a threat landscape for you, kind of give you an idea of the bad guys we're facing, because that will give you a clue into the role and opportunities that you have as young folks coming into this world. So in almost every talk I give, I use this image right here to get started. So I love this image. You see this White House, it kind of looks a little dark, and kind of, kind of interesting. Kind of like, yeah, I'd kind of like to go there, probably somewhere in Maine, right? That looks pretty interesting. But we don't have the full picture. And so because I don't have the full picture, my first opinion, what I see looks, that's kind of interesting. And then I paint you the full picture, what's about to happen. That's the world of cybersecurity today. We typically don't have the full picture. I can't tell you how many companies don't truly understand what's going on. And because they don't see something like this that's about to happen. And I'll paint an illustration of this. I will never forget, I was a banker when this happened. I don't know if you guys remember an attack. You can Google for this later. It's called WannaCry. This started in the UK. It was some ransomware attacks that were beginning to happen. It started initially targeting some UK-based hospitals. And I personally remember no one knew what was going on. We see all these tweets coming out. We see all these notifications from healthcare boards all of the UK saying, we're totally shut down. If you have an appointment with us, don't come in. The only thing we can do is if it's life-threatening, we got to pull out the thing that like jobs your heart, come in. Otherwise, do not come into a hospital. We can't serve you. Everything's down. It's like a doomsday scenario. It's not one hospital. It's 2, it's 3, it's 4. It's spreading. And the news is hitting. And everyone's wondering, like, is this like some kind of impending major cyber attack that we've all been talking about, right? You can see some examples here of some of this. Here's one of the healthcare boards, NHS. Was showing right there in there. We're having problems. We're not saying it's ransomware. They're just saying we're having problems. Don't come in. It's a big issue. So it really kind of illustrates really where I think we're at. Another thing, I love this image too. I love to use it for the older folks in the room. None of you younger guys will know what the filing cabinet is. And I want to get through this really quick. So normally I'll say, does anyone know what that filing cabinet is? The filing cabinet, that is the filing cabinet from Watergate. Now, you will know this, the server, I know it's kind of hard to see, that server is Hillary Clinton's email server. So here's why I love this image. It's kind of like a museum thing they did for a while. This shows the old movie. It's still information. Information was the key in the left, in the Watergate stuff, and it is key today in cyber attacks. It's just sort of the medium has changed, right? Now no longer we have like a guy who working in office and sneaking in. Now we have bad guys from other countries doing those things that they do, and sometimes even locally, right? I talk about this also in a lot of talks I give, but this idea of like an underground, like a supply chain of like bad guys. So just like when you get a car, there's not like some guy that builds your car. It goes off an assembly line, right? One guy puts on the wheel, one guy puts on the chassis, one guy drops the engine in. It's probably way more complicated than that, but you get the idea. Same thing with cybercrime. So very rarely is there like a guy that does bad stuff. Now you have people that write the malware. Now you have people that distribute the malware. Now you have people that actually are responsible for like the ransomware stuff that they do. It's a very organized supply chain. And so examples of this is one of these dark web forums where a lot of this is being sold and traded. This is an example of, and I'm going to get through it quickly, I don't have time to go through every piece of every one of these, but this is something that was maybe 6 years ago now. It's called Lizard Stressor by a hacker group called the Lizard Squad. This is basically have you ever heard denial of service attacks, where like I send so much network traffic, I shut a site down. These guys are doing denial of service as a service. So you could pay them money in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. They would give you access to their botnet, and you used to literally give them a domain and IP and shut it down. And they shut it down at the amount of time for the funds that you give them. They call this thing a lizard stressor. So pretty interesting. This was a huge, I don't know, the IT guys in the room that are like IT administrators, but MS-15034 was a Microsoft vulnerability. It was an ODay, zero-day at the time. That was extremely important. It was remotely exploitable. It was a big deal. This thing sold many years ago for the low price of 518 Bitcoin. At the time, that was like well over $1 million. So think about that for a minute. There was a bad guy that discovered a remotely exploitable zero-day in Microsoft, and there was another bad guy who bought it for 7 figures. Like that shows you this is not like small time in my mom's basement cybercrime from yesteryear. This is very organized. There's money behind this. There's sophistication behind this. There are nation states. There are organized crime. They're very interested in all of this, right? So this is kind of what we face. I'm going to skip by some of these. Oh, this one, interesting. So ransomware, you heard me mention this. This is called Tox. This was developed by a high schooler. This is the very first ransomware as a service. So this was a high schooler with some ingenuity, and he created some ransomware that you could then, he would give you the ransomware, and then you go run it, and then he takes a cut out of it. And so through this, you kind of go through the things that you want, like how much you want the ransom amount to be. He'll tell you how much his fees are going to be, but then he encrypts it fresh, so all the antivirus and endpoint stuff doesn't see it. He gives you access to the ransomware. You go grab it, and then you get it out to whoever you want to infect. And then when they pay the ransom, you get the cut, you get the rest. Unbelievable. This took off like wildfire. Today, I can tell you many of the top ransomware variants, like Ryuk. There's one called Soden. There's several of these. What's the other one? BitPaint. Those are the three that off the top of my head are still this way to this day. So a high schooler created a ransomware as a service industry that is still being used today by the real bad guys doing the same exact mechanism. They write the malware, they give it out to their buyers, and that's what you see. So why are we so behind? Like, why is this world such a big challenge? Well, one of the reasons is we have an over-reliance on prevention. And this is kind of one of the big things that Perch is all about. One of the big things that we're working on at Perch is trying to understand, hey, why it's great to have preventative controls, but at the end of the day, prevention will fail. And I'm going to show you an illustration kind of what I mean in a minute. But if you want to kind of look at the difference between preventing things and detecting things, so prevention is blocking things that I know is bad. That's good. I should do that. I should always do that. That's a big, important piece of securing ourselves. But what happens when something happens and I don't know it's bad and it gets through those preventative defenses? Uh-oh, that's not a good thing. That's a really bad thing, right? And so detection is finding those threats that bypass all of those. So let's use a home for a minute. I love the home security analogy. I use this all the time because it really kind of illustrates and makes things kind of get some clarity. So when you think about your own house, right? We have preventative defenses in our house. The best example would be a door lock. When you go home, you leave from home, you go to work, go to school, you lock the door. At night, you lock the door. That's normal stuff, right? Now, do we expect because I've locked the door that a bad guy's going to come and jiggle the door and be like, shots spoiled again, let's go to the next house, right? No. What do? They kick that door down, right? They break the glass and they get in. That's what bad guys do, because they're bad guys, right? That's the whole job. So we know those are the things they can do. So as a defense, what do we do knowing that our preventative defenses can at some point will fail? We put in a home alarm system. How many of you guys have like a ring or, like one of those kind of things at your house where like someone hits the doorbell? Yeah, it's more and more people are starting to get those, right? Or even a fully fledged alarm system. So we put those things in the house. Why? Because we know at some point if someone kicks the door down, this may not be as big a deal in like rural Kentucky as it is in Tampa, but I need to know that there's a back that's in the home. The hallway monitor goes off at 2 a.m. The glass break sensor goes off. And now I say, whoa, this looks like some kind of big problem. And so now what I need to do is I need some automated defense. Call the police, make sure they get there in time to eliminate or at least greatly reduce that problem, right? Really important stuff. So I love that example. And that's kind of this idea of prevention is great to stop the known bad things, but occasionally, and it does happen that at some point those prevention defenses will fail. We feel like, and we see in a lot of study data, it even shows this, where really prevention is good at stopping that 10% of the known stuff. The bad guys, they're always doing new things. They're always bypassing defenses. We worked with a company just last month that was onboarding. It was like a managed IT provider, onboarding a new customer. Come to find out they're in the middle of a cyber breach. Bad guys are already in the network. Bad guys are already escalating privileges. Really, really scary stuff for them, right? And all of the prevention, all of the antivirus, all the firewalls, all that kind of stuff didn't see any of it. Not to say that stuff is bad, but at some point those things miss the bad things. So how do we do? What do we do about it? So this is what Perch is all about. So this is where, like, if you want to make like all the analogies here, like these are things that we're doing with the expectation at Perch. We operate with the expectation that bad guys are going to get past preventive defenses. So we're doing things like looking at system logs. What's all the things that are going on in those events? Looking at the network traffic coming in and out of the network, saying, hey, we see signs of potential badness, signs of initial attack, or maybe a current attack that's right now occurring, right? That's where we have just like police for response and monitoring the home alarm system, like at the alarm system company. We have that security operations team I mentioned a minute ago that's watching for all of those attacks. That's kind of what we're all about. All right, so let's talk about the opportunities. So now you can understand the threats, you understand what bad guys are doing, understand a little bit about what Perch is doing as a particular company, although there are thousands of other opportunities that are out there. I love this quote from Aristotle. So you've probably heard this before, the whole is greater than some of its parts. The thing that we need to do more in cybersecurity is work together, collaborate together, operate together. Bad guys work together, why do we not work together? That's a big challenge. You go talk to most enterprises, Fortune 50 on down, those are things that you'll hear them talk about. Is, we're trying to really collaborate with our peers in the industry and understand the threats that they're seeing and the threats that we're seeing and do something about all of it. So what we call all of that is called cyber intelligence. This comes out of the military world. So like way back and even the world of Julius Caesar, military intelligence was really important. Where are our troop movements? Where are the enemy troop movements? What do we think they're going to do? When are they going to attack? Where are they going to attack? Really important stuff. All of that is sort of migrated today to what we call cyber intelligence, same idea, but looking at it from a cyber attack perspective. So what is all this? Let's skip by that, but who makes it? There's lots of places where cyber intel is made. And if you're interested in some of this, there are so many opportunities for you. Federal government is really, really good at this. There are industry groups that share cyber intelligence with each other. So inside the banking industry, there's a group called the Financial Services Information Sharing and Analysis Center, a nonprofit group of banks all around the world that are sharing threats with each other. They're unique to them. How awesome is that? How powerful is that? Right? Many, many different sources. There are even like open source. I can promise you some of the best sources of threat and cyber intelligence comes from Twitter. That cool? You got all these threat researchers that are looking at something, they're literally tweeting out what they're seeing. And we can look at that and consume that and share that with each other. We do that at Perch all the time. If you want to look at cyber intelligence, here's the problem with it. It looks like this. A little techie, right? Not sure exactly what all that means if you're looking at it. That's understandable. And one of the reasons for this is because machines should be the ones that are doing the sharing and the detection and the operation of the cyber intelligence. We need humans doing all that. What we need is people. We need machines doing all that, not humans. So, you heard me mention a minute ago those sharing centers, like the Financial Services, ISAC, or ISAC, right? So what's the mission of all of these? The mission of these sharing groups is this idea, this concept of, again, we're better off all together. Some of all of us, right? Is better than just a single one of us. So this idea of sharing common threats, sharing the things that we care about. There's a good chance that a bank, the threats they see are very similar to the threats another bank may see. So why don't we get together and share those things? What things are you seeing? Are you seeing an attack? Oh, we're seeing that too. Are you seeing? I'm not seeing that, but I'm going to go look for it and be prepared for it, right? That's the whole idea of what an ISAC is really all about. And this is part of Perch's mission. So we work alongside most of the ISACs that are in the world today. So there's many, many different ones. And what we are trying to do, and a big piece of our mission is just this right here, is helping organizations be able to automate all of that intelligence that's being shared with each other so that we can all be better off. That's a big piece of what we're doing at what we do. So, what we get out of this, think about this. Imagine a bad guy tries some kind of attack and a defender sees it. That's great. But how many other defenders may have missed it? Now, what if we can push pain back to a bad guy and say, you try something once and we catch it, I'm going to share it with everybody. I'm going to do the whole old school telephone system and say, hey, here's the threat, here's the threat, here's the threat, here's the threat. And now we've pushed a lot of pain back to that bad guy because the things he's trying to do or she's trying to do no longer valid because we all know about it. We're ready for it. We're expecting it. Now what do they have to do? Cat and mouse, go back and do something else again, right? So instead of spray and pray and one attack goes against hundreds, one attack to one, it fails, or even if it succeeds, now everybody knows about it, that's pushing a lot of pain back to a bad guy. So that's what we're all about. That's what we think that the power is. And those are what's called sightings, by the way. So inside the world of cyber intelligence, there's this term called sightings. And what that is, you can go back and say back to your parent or guardian, hey, I know what sightings are. And they'll be like, cool, I don't know what that means, but you do. So sightings are a way of saying, I saw that threat. You shared something interesting with me. I saw it too. And now I can do something with it, right? We can do all kinds of things with it. So think about this for a minute. Let me paint an illustration. The animal kingdom is doing this for a long time. So I live in Tampa. We go to the beach all the time with my kids. Here's what my kids love to do. They love to bring Cheez-Its. They go out to the beach. And, you've seen this before, right? There's one seagull. You look around, there's a seagull flying around by the beach, right? And my kids pull out the Cheez-Its and they chuck one on the sand. What happens? That seagull beelines for it. And somehow within 30 seconds, there are 400 seagulls all around. I don't know how it happens, but it always happens. They're everywhere, right? And my kids do this for a reason. So now all the seagulls are all around them. They're super interested because they all want to fight over the Cheez-Its, right? I could just have that Pixar movie from Toy, or whatever it is, Finding Nemo, mine, 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 mine. And then what do the kids do? They start running after them, right? They run after, and all of a sudden they get close to the birds, and the first bird sees the threat of my little kiddo, and it starts taking off. What do the rest of the flock do? They don't have to know. They're way over here. They just know, oh, he's taking off an alarm. We're going to take off an alarm. That's the idea. So that's the same thing we're talking about in the world of cyber intelligence, is the same thing, the same idea of if one of us sees the threat, let's all work together in unison, just like the animal kingdom does. That's the power of sharing and using cyber intelligence. Now let's flip that analogy. So I love watching animal documentaries, and this is kind of what I'll close on this little piece. It's very much laggards are always left behind. So let me paint this illustration. So I remember watching this documentary, and there's something in Africa, right? So lions or cheetahs or something chasing after those big, whatever they are, gazelles or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. And they're running, they're chasing. The herd is running. The herd is running. The herd is running. Eventually, the herd says enough is enough. And you know what they do? They all stop. They all turn around. They face the predator together in unison. All their horns are down and locked. And guess what the predators do? They stop. As long as you're running away, I can chase you. But when you stop and act together in unison to say enough is enough, they're done. They can't go after that herd. It's unbelievable. Now, here's what they do. There's always a couple laggards that couldn't get with the rest of the flock. They're either too young or too old, and those are the ones that get attacked. Same thing in the world of cyber intelligence today. If we will be involved in sharing and working together and coordinating together and not being that laggard, then we can stay up to pace with where everyone else is going. And I think that's so powerful. Such a good way to push pain back to that bad guy, right? But there's also that threat that exists in there as well. For time's sake, I'm going to skip by some of the advantages of all of this. But I just wanted to cast that vision for you guys of what Perch is doing in the world of cyber intelligence, being able to share threats with one another, being able to defend each other based upon the threats that we're all seeing as peers, really kind of gets us to that next level of truly protecting ourselves. Really, really cool stuff. So I'm going to finish on this as the sort of a rewarding career. So one of my friends, Forrest Carver, spoke here last year. So if you remember Forrest, if you're here last year, and he talked about that cyber shortage, definitely is a thing. There are so many jobs and opportunities that are out there. If you're curious and you want to see what's out there, right down here, cyberseek.org. I've put the link down there if you want to check this out. So this is an aggregator that's looking for cyber jobs that are out there, and then it's showing it at both a national level and a state level, and it does all kinds of like data sorting. So I definitely recommend that you check this out. So I pulled this literally late last night to make sure it's as fresh can be. So you can see some really interesting things. So 313,000 cybersecurity job openings right now. Total unemployed, 715,000. So you can see a lot of the, look at this right here, their assessment of the supply of workers is extremely low. What about Kentucky? I thought I would look at Kentucky to sort of pick that out, because I would think that Kentucky would be pretty, we're growing in a growing economy here, right? Well, 1,644 current job openings. Isn't that unbelievable? Right now. 1,600 job openings just in the state of Kentucky. Pretty powerful stuff. We can continue to go on and look at some of the big certification pathways over here on the very far right of some of the big things that people are looking for. So if you're curious, like, hey, what kind of sort of certification should I get? I will tell you that the Security Plus, a lot of people have that. That's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get that. Just know that a lot of people have that. But as you step into other additional certification pathways, really opens up some uniqueness to you that makes you have a competitive advantage in the hiring field. So really important stuff. So I just wanted to share that for a minute so you kind of understand that truly there's opportunity for you in this world. So what opportunities would that look like? Well, you can kind of look at this from like an entry, mid-level, and high level. And I don't have time to go through all these fields for you, but most of you are going to start in that entry level and then kind of go through. And that was the career path for me. So when I started out, I was like a Linux jockey. I was literally in a cubicle, and that was okay. That's awesome. I enjoyed and I learned so many things, and then slowly stepped up. So today I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Perch. I'm not very involved in those things anymore. I do a lot of other different things. But there's a lot of different kind of opportunities, and you can see many of these different ones here. And I'm going to kind of close on this to kind of give you some thoughts of like, well, what could I do? Because I don't care who you are. If you're interested in cybersecurity, there's a fit for you. So if you're sort of that problem solver, you're like, I'm super interested in finding vulnerabilities and flaws. You're a critical thinker, you're analytical, you're an outside the box thinker. Some good fields for you to start into might be a vulnerability analyst. Scanning networks for vulnerabilities, what exists, how do we fix those things? Maybe being some kind of penetration tester. Those are people that actually attack systems and try to say, hey, what kind of things can we actually break into? Threat hunters. We have a lot of threat hunters at Perch. So they're looking at lots of stuff, trying to find those needles in haystacks. Really interesting things, right? What if you're a quick learner? You love connecting the dots, figuring out how everything kind of works together. You're curious, researcher, self-learner, big picture kind of person. Well, you might be a great security architect. These are people that figure out, how do I build a big security program? I got all these different network flows and things to protect. How do I get from point A to point B and get there? That might be a great field for you if you're that kind of person. The Avenger. I love this one. I have a little bit of this to me, right? So I want to fight bad guys. I saw how they defrauded a family member, maybe my grandma, and it made me so mad when she sent that money out to the bad guys. And I want to stop that. I want to be a defender too. So those characteristics, you're empathetic, you're instinctive, tenacious, you've got a lot of ingenuity for you. Those people make really good security analysts, really good threat hunters, especially working and starting out in the military. A great field for some of those kinds of jobs. And then the teacher. This is actually me to the core. This is for me, number one, really trying to help people out. So helpful, listener, leader, advocate, altruistic. Those are the kinds of things. So starting out, maybe some kind of consultant, maybe some kind of IT auditor, helping people go and say, hey, here's how you can get there. Here's how other people are doing it. So I love this because some of you may be like, hey, I'm not technical, but I love cybersecurity. I want to help. There's a role for you. There's a place for you. Maybe you're super technical. Definitely a role for you as well. So if you're interested in learning, some ways you can get there. Cybrary is great. Cybraces, Hacker 101, all of these here are really good. Those are all free. Not a single one of those costs you a penny. So if you are interested in learning cybersecurity on your own, I can't encourage you enough to do that. Get on some of these resources. Start going through these things. And there's more than this, but these are some of the ones just to get the ball rolling. Many of you have some kind of cybersecurity and IT inside your school. Seize on that as much as you can. Really important as well. And then don't be afraid. Look for boot camps. Look for summer events. There's lots of those things that are completely free for high school students. It's just waiting for you to be proactive, to go out there, find it, join it, and do it. That kind of experience is really valuable. Also, formal education is really important. I'm a Murray State grad. So 2 fields that I would say, I mean, obviously CIT here at WKCTC, really good. I can't possibly encourage that enough for you to consider going that career pathway. And then if a bachelor's degree is for you, then looking at TSM is a good example, or CIS at Murray State are 2 fields that you can kind of continue that education pathway. So really, really good way to go. And I think a lot of you know that, but I just wanted to share it. And then also military is really good. So I can't express this enough. Now, I'm not here to tell you exactly which branches and how to do it. That is not me. But I will tell you there's some great ways you can do that. I have many friends that are in cybersecurity that have gotten jobs and are doing things that would not be possible without a military career and pathway. Getting the top secret SCI clearance is very, very difficult outside of the military. Military have access to things that no one else have access to. It opens doors. I've got a friend that was a CIA analyst for many, many years. She came out of the military world, and then CIA kind of swooped her up, and then she went into the private industry after that. Her experiences, she's done things I'll never do. Really, really cool stuff. So that's a great pathway for you. You should definitely kind of think about that as well. All right, so I think I'm going to close on that. My goal today, hopefully, was to encourage you and realize there is a place for you. If you're interested, I will be around and love to meet you and talk to you. Thank you guys so much.
So we probably got a couple minutes for a question or two for Wes. My first take a lot of times is, I've always kind of been an old school, and security to me is a feeling. If I feel secure, I'm good until that person comes up and punches you in the face, right? Then you're not so secure anymore. So then I need a bodyguard. Is Perch a form of bodyguard for a lot of small businesses and so on? It comes to, once I get hit, then I got a problem. So now I got to figure out what am I going to do, right? And I don't know if you can elaborate on that, but does anybody have any questions right off the bat that you might want to ask?
Over here.
We got one over here. Go ahead.
Okay, so the question was, like threat detection technologies, how do you keep that out of the hands of the bad guys, right? I think so. One of the things we did at Perch is we were doing what we're doing today at an enterprise scale for so what we're doing at Perch, same thing like JP Morgan Chase is doing, like literally multi-million-dollar budgets. Most companies don't have that. So we try to bring that same technology process down market. So I say all of that to say a lot of the tools that we use behind the scenes are open source tools, and that's the way it is for a lot of people. So bad guys can actually look and use the same actual tools that we can use. What the differentiator is this ability to share threat intelligence with each other through vetted, trusted communities. And so that's a big piece of this. So when you if you're a bank, for example, and you join Financial Services ISAC, they vet you. They make sure, is this really a bank? They are who they say they are in order to get access to those credentials and be able to share that intelligence with one another. So that's usually the gateway of trust, is through the intelligence itself. The actual mechanisms that we use, anyone can go take a look. By the way, if anyone's curious, I should have said this. Shame on me for not saying it. If you're writing or have good memory, if you want to look at some of the cool technologies we use, one is called Elasticsearch. So incredibly powerful. It's the big data correlation engine that we use. Another thing that we use very heavily is something called Suricata, Suricata, Suricata. Those are 2 big technologies that we use at Perch to make things run. And both of those are free or have a free option. So you can start using them today if you want. And the last thing I'll tell you, we don't use this, but if you want kind of an all-encompassing platform to start playing with some of the technology Perch uses, there's an open source product or project called Security Onion. Download that guy, take a look at it, start playing around with it. Super cool.
All right, thanks. Thanks very much. I'll tell you what we got going on right now is we've got some prizes. All right, we're going to give away some great stuff today. And on the back of your registration or on your name tag, you got a number, right? Everybody has a unique number. I might start with the little one first. Looks like I got a Roku here I'm going to give away today. Anybody know what a Roku does, right? Yeah. Everybody streams. I guess a bunch of you probably bought Disney yesterday or day before, right? So that might be good for that. And so right now we're going to see who has, if I can find my link here, who has number 316. Number 316, all right. Number 316 must be from St. Mary's. There you go. Congratulations. Thanks for being here. All right, Raspberry Pi, number 301. 301. I can assure you these are pure randomizers or random number generator. There's no preconceived number there. Another St. Mary's. You guys are lucky today. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you for being here. Excuse me. We're going to come back to the next two after the next speaker, so make sure you stick around for those two big prizes. Our next guest speaker is Mr. Wes Kerr. Let's go ahead and bring up his presentation. But Wes Kerr, please big round of applause or welcome to Wes. Wes is also a former graduate from Murray State University. We've been on a board of the TSM program for a while together, and Wes is a unique member of the Connected Nation. And Connected Nation has a lot to do with advocating for broadband and breaking down the digital divide to make sure that we're equal in what we can get from speed and internet access. And it's so important for us as educators in schools to see that we have an advocate for making sure that we stay in touch with what's going on, how the internet connectivity is growing and where the providers are coming from. So he's been there for quite a while, and let's welcome Mr. Wes Kerr. Thank you.
Morning. Y'all hear me okay? I always hated to have to give a presentation the same day as Wes. We were in class together a lot and had a lot of fun together at Murray State. But thank you all for letting me be here today. I'm going to run through a little bit of telecom background, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's changing, what's coming in the future, and really, with you all being in high school, the opportunities that are going to be in front of you over the next 5 to 10 years, and how different they might look even from today. So, Connected Nation. I'll sum this up to say that we're concerned and interested in seeing that everybody everywhere within the United States and really anywhere has equal access to broadband services and the technologies that operate on those services. This is our schools, that's at your home, and I would guess many of you all live in some of the rural areas of Western Kentucky. I grew up over in Henderson County. I live in Bowling Green, Kentucky now. I'm not that far from you all. And so I understand the disparity that exists sometimes once you drive outside of city limits in Western Kentucky or in Michigan or in Utah or take your pick. I've been to many of those states, and I understand that there's a disparity in the services that are available when you drive outside of city limits, and in some cases, the city limits themselves. Some of the things that we do network mapping, validation, and analysis. Why does that matter? Some of what we're talking about today is we have to understand where we're at today in order to understand where we're going in the future. And so we've worked with providers throughout the country to understand where services are available and where they're not. And then that helps us understand what we need to do to help get those services to you. Residential and business technology research. We want to understand what it is you do with your access to technology, what you want to be able to do with it, and how that impacts our local communities and essentially your life. Local, state, national policy and analysis. Why does that matter? Because I tell you today that what happens at the local level impacts your ability to gain access to services. What happens at the state level absolutely does, and I cannot begin to stress to you the importance at a national level of policy. You want better service? Understand that the provider who's at your house may be required to provide a different type of service still to you. They may want to give you a different service. They may want to offer you fiber services, but they're still required to offer copper to your house. And they can't afford to build 2 networks or maintain and operate 2 networks. Community technology planning. I spend a lot of time doing this work. We go into a community, we do surveys, we talk with the businesses and the schools, basically everybody in the community to better understand, like I said earlier, what you do with your technology, what you would like to be able to do, so that then you have the information to make quality plans and to give yourself a direction to build new services, to go out and look for new services and better interact with technology. Some of the work that we've done. 13 states that we've worked with on broadband mapping work. It's about 150 counties that we've done partnerships with, 1,500 unique broadband provider relationships. For several years, I maintained a relationship with the largest broadband providers in the country. I'd work with them to understand where their services were at and how we could interpret that information to go into mapping. All of that went into a large project, the National Broadband Map, several years ago. So we worked to, again, understand those services, put them on a map, and make that available to you all to understand what, at least what was being reported to you. Connectivity surveys and mapping for 128,000 community anchor institutions, schools, libraries. What are you doing with broadband? Is it available to you? What speeds do you have? Beginning to understand the real landscape that exists out there. And then more than 600 community engagements, and this is where I spend most of my time now. And again, that's just working with communities to understand what it is they're doing and where they want to go. Where are we coming from? Anybody know what what these discs over on the corner are? You're laughing. Somebody? These are AOL discs. Now, I realize some of you all may have never seen these, knowing the age of the crowd. But AOL discs, you just get these in the mail, you get excited, oh, there's another AOL disc, and you pull it out. And if you had a different dial-up provider, you didn't care. But these were dial-up discs. Bottom corner, anybody know what that is? Anybody got good eyesight? It's a patent for the telegraph. So where have we come from? I put smoke signals up here. And some of you, if you live in the right part or in the wrong parts of rural Kentucky, you may feel like you still use smoke signals to communicate. Right? But smoke signals, we had smoke signals. We went to the telegraph on copper. Then we had telephones. We have cable, satellite, 2G phones. Flip your phone out, open and talk, right? 3G phones. Started making that digital transition. You went from using a room half the size of this to do all of your network switching to a closet to maintain your equipment in. Anything missing there? I'm sorry? This didn't. That's right. Glad you caught that. Morse code. Right? Morse code. We've come a long way. Where are we now? I just put a couple of different images up here. That's a Fiber pedestal, obviously a cell tower. We're starting to use fiber today. Fiber has, I'm not exactly sure what the penetration rates right now are. Most of our urban communities have fiber available to some extent. Still using cable for broadband services. Copper is still prevalent. We still have a lot of people who are using DSL. And then we have fixed wireless. And all of these, it's important to understand these because we're making a transition now to some new technologies. We've already seen deployments of new technologies, many of which still rely heavily on the infrastructure listed here. All right, questions? Anybody know what this image in the top left-hand corner is? If you know, just yell it out. Starlink, did I hear that? This is the Starlink train from back in May when they launched the first 60 of their low Earth orbit satellites. And they were still, after they launched, they actually were still in alignment with one another, and that's actually the individual satellites. I think that was taken in Sweden, maybe that picture was. And shortly after this, all the individual satellites, the propulsion system, started moving them into their appointed locations. The rainbow map, anybody know what that shows? I'm impressed if you do. That's for white space, TV white space. Anybody heard of TV white space? So it's hard to see. There's Paducah. It shows that there's somewhere between 9 and 45 channels in the TV white space. These are the spaces between your local television channels for potential use for wireless deployments. Still a lot of work to be done on this. Still a lot of work to be done with all of these technologies. But they are things that we're headed towards. Anybody know why I have pictures of a random city street? 5G. Who's heard of 5G? Who believes 5G is going to answer all of our problems? No? Who's heard a lot of hype about 5G? That's right. So 5G, you're either in the camp it's going to fix everything, or you're in the camp that it won't do anything for any of us. It's polarizing. The reality is 5G is a technology standard. It's not a service, it's a technology standard. It's a standard by which all of our telecom providers are starting to deploy services on. AT&T and Verizon are a good example. They're going to use millimeter wave technology. Those lampposts are antennas. 1,500 feet in some of that spectrum. Multiple gigabit throughput. Way faster than most of us have ever experienced at our own homes. Way faster than a lot of corporate networks. But that doesn't help us in rural communities. And here we are. We're in Western Kentucky, right? How many of you all live outside of the city limits? All right? What's 5G going to do for you? Well, the question is still out there, but 5G being a technology stack can be laid over other frequencies. And so we're interested in seeing what it's going to do in the low spectrum, low frequencies. But they're talking about potential of 5 or 6 miles, similar to what we experience already on our mobile networks. And potentially well over 100 meg, 500 meg in some instances. It just depends on which company you're talking to. But it could have a pretty major impact on the type of services we have available. Is it going to be those crazy gigabit speeds? Probably not in our rural areas. But if you live outside of the city limits, who in here outside the city limits has greater than 25 megabit connection at their home? If you live outside of city limits and you don't, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. They're West Kentucky, Kentucky in general, Tennessee. There are companies working hard to make a change to the connectivity we have, the connections we can make, but there's still a lot of work to do. Anybody know what this alien-looking thing is? I'm sorry? This is an image of AT&T's prototype antenna for what they call AirGig. It connects to fiber, as do obviously Starlink won't connect to fiber. But all of the future technologies are going to require or really need that fiber backbone. But AirGig is an interesting technology because in rural communities, way back when, we went in and we made sure we had copper pretty much everywhere and that we had power lines, more importantly, everywhere. AirGig sits on top of a power line or on top of your pole, and these ear-looking things, this looks like something out of Star Wars, but they are actually antennas that inject wireless signal into the radio frequency spectrum that is emitted off of your line. So it doesn't actually connect to a power line. It uses it as a waveguide. Pretty interesting technology. Who knows if this will ever be deployed? There have been some pilots in the U.S. There is, I understand, well over 200 patents for this technology. They have put a lot of money and interest into these technologies to see that in rural parts of the country we can have something different and have new technology. Anybody know what that is? A tractor. Anybody ever seen one of these in person? Right, we're in West Kentucky. We have seen these. Probably not this one because they just announced it. But it's a tractor. Anybody know what this is? What is it? CES. What's CES? Largest consumer electronics show in the U.S. What's a consumer electronic? Phones, headphones. That's right. You've probably got 4 or 5 consumer electronics on you, or what we would typically think of as a consumer electronic. That, at the beginning of this week, was named one of CES's 2020 honorary awards. And if you go look at the list, there's probably 40 or 50 of these. I promise you there is nothing that looks anything like that except for that on that list. It's headphones and it's headphones and phones and take your list. I mean, the list is huge. There's nothing that looks like a tractor. That is John Deere's 8RX. Sorry. It was listed as an innovative technology for multiple reasons, but one of them being the number of sensors, the AI that's actually implemented into it. They haven't seen it before. That level of integration of the sensors and the AI. One of the biggest problems we face moving forward is how to feed a growing population around the world. Technology and IT have a huge part to play in that. And I use this picture today because, again, I'm in West Kentucky. You all knew this was a tractor. You may have driven past one this morning on your way here. Agriculture is a huge part of West Kentucky. It's probably, if you're in here for IT, you're probably not thinking about agriculture in the least bit as a career path. Part of what I wanted to do today is to help cast the vision that IT is changing, or IT is infiltrating, I think is a better way of saying it, the world around us. And the jobs in IT are not what we would have necessarily always thought about, or at least not in the same fields. So what's changing? Agriculture, transportation, law enforcement, manufacturing, education, all of these areas are changing because of our ability to connect to one another. Agriculture, you just saw it. That tractor, autonomous vehicles, that's not anything new in agriculture. That's been going on now for the past 10 years, but it is a very prevalent technology now. The number of sensors and devices and farm management systems. New Holland implements They have a tractor that they believe will be deployed within the next 4 to 5 years. They say that when it's in the field, when it's operating, it'll produce as much as 4 terabytes of data a day. 4 terabytes of data stuck on a tractor in the middle of the field doesn't do us any good. It has to connect back. And when it connects back, it's connecting back to farm management systems that are going back to the implement vendor, the farm management company, the seed companies, the weather, because all of those things now are being integrated so that we can enhance and maximize the yield per acre in ag. Transportation. It's not just Bluetooth connecting your phone to your car. We see major changes now in AI. You brought up Tesla. Seeing autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles. But what about companies like Lyft or Uber? Those are IT companies. Their entire business is built on IT. You want to get a ride, you pick up your phone, it connects back, and then puts their driver getting to you. That's an IT company. Healthcare. This one's a little scary sometimes. But we're losing, in healthcare, particularly in rural areas of the country, we have healthcare facilities closing at an alarming rate. There are large areas of this country who no longer have a primary care facility. And with that, the only solution is telehealth. Getting individuals in rural areas that may be 200 miles from a primary care facility to be able to have a consultation or to have a local ER doctor who can call up or message or have a consultation with a specialty doctor somewhere else in the country or in the world who can help them handle a case that's, somebody who's come through the door that they've never seen before. That's happening. There are businesses that are growing because they simply are offering these types of services to rural areas. But again, we'll go back to that policy thing. Policy is slowing this down. Our policies are multiple years behind what our technology is currently able to do. Those are things that, as an individual in IT, you will have to deal with. Manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. We're talking about losing, 30 or 40% of the workforce in manufacturing because of new technologies and the connectivity that exists. Education. Any of you do online classes? Anybody take, even for your class, do you have to get online for anything? Yeah, you do. Working on a project in Utah right now, and we're doing an assessment. It's unbelievable how many classes are offered, even at the high school level, that are primarily online. Workforce. The job market of 2019 looks vastly different from what it did 20 years ago, essentially. You'll laugh at some of these. Videotape and disc rental, almost non-existent now. It's a niche market, and they probably sell it as vintage, right? That wasn't the way it was when I remember when I saw this. I remember specifically growing up in Henderson County. There was a disc store, a CD store, and I remember going like every Friday when I got my paycheck and going and buying a new CD. Which I know probably sounds strange. None of these have seen any less than a 37% decrease over the past 20 years. Why do I show you this? I show you this because these aren't the only ones. There were actually a list of 20 different occupations or industry niches that are gone. These aren't going to be the only ones. There are things today that in the next 5 to 10 years that you are used to using that won't exist anymore. That's because of IT. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Employment of computer and information technology occupations is projected to grow 12% from 2018 to 2028. Much faster than the average for all occupations. I'll let you read the rest of it. But much faster than for all occupations. Wes said it earlier. There's entry level, there's mid level, higher level management positions, all kinds of positions. And today you have the opportunity. Wes was talking about cybersecurity. But guys, I can talk to you about agriculture, manufacturing. My goal is to cast that vision of IT is bigger than what we often think about it being. It's not just working for a Microsoft or a Cisco, or there are opportunities in these other fields. And that's because of the connectivity that we continue to work on. That's why I talked about where we came from, where we're headed. Because the more connectivity we have, the more likely these opportunities, these types of jobs, are going to be available. I see words up there, cloud. You hear cloud, you hear cloud, you hear cloud. One of the prevailing terms, or one of the prevailing trends that we see is that people are starting to diversify the cloud, and we're going to edge computing now. It's not just putting everything out, but we want to bring it a little bit closer. We want to get those network and corporate resources closer to us. We need to have access to them more quickly than going out and retrieving from the cloud. Edge technology, big data. What are the jobs that you all hear about that you are interested in? No jobs, not interested? I understand. What do you want to do? You're here to talk about IT. What do you want to do? Cybersecurity, network what? Okay. What else? Application development, programming. There you go. Keep up. Come on. Keep throwing them out there. Yeah. See? There we go. What kinds of companies are you going to go do that work in? Have you thought about that? FBI? That list of, these are essentially, this is a word cloud created from a list of, or a job description list, basically. And they're all jumbled up, which I think is kind of fun, because you can come up with some fun names. But guys and girls, it's really important to understand that in the world that we live in today, in the world that we're going to live in over the next 5 to 10 years, these jobs exist in industries that you have not thought about them existing in. And that's important when you live in West Kentucky and you want to stay in West Kentucky. Growing up in Henderson, Kentucky, going to school at Murray State, I'm one of the weirdos, I guess. I wanted to stay here. I was fortunate enough to go to work for Connect Kentucky at the time, Connected Nation, and was able to stay in this region. But I work all over the country, but I know it's important for many to stay here, and these types of opportunities exist. Wes showed it earlier. It was 1,500, 1,600 open cybersecurity positions in the state of Kentucky. The numbers are larger than that at a national level, obviously. The opportunities exist. There you go. Like I said, I always hated going behind Wes. He always does such a good job. What questions do you have? Technology-wise, what's happening with certain technologies? I'm happy to answer some of those. So, what technology for rural areas? It's going to be a mix. No one size fits all. There's so much involved with trying to get services to a community or out into rural areas. Good chance we're going to see some 5G is going to be some of the answer. It depends on what carriers are picking up what spectrum. Fixed wireless is a really good possibility. If that AT&T, the Star Wars looking antenna hat there, that has a good possibility. I haven't heard specifics about the pilot that took place. They piloted it in Georgia, in rural Georgia. I'm not sure exactly how well it went, but I do know that after they did the pilot, they put out an RFP for a vendor to help them build the devices, which is usually a pretty good sign. But it's still to be seen. We have lots of cooperatives that are building out fiber in those areas. The business models all look different, and so it depends on kind of who's serving what area, whether or not certain business models might work in an area. But there's a lot of work and a lot of federal dollars going into seeing rural broadband made available. Anything else? Thank you.